Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Thursday. I'm the Gray Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Thursday, February 15th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are seeing today is our Death card in its reversal. Remember what I was talking about with those blockages? Remember when I was telling you that feeling of frustration that's potentially leading to transformation? One of the things that we have to recognize and identify is that transformation is something that is often aided and abetted by moments of situations of discomfort. Navigating some of this right now is, again, potentially creating something that may feel like it is a bit more of that frustration energy. But this amplification point, coming into a point of looking at that point of frustration and utilizing it as something that feels like it is productive, putting it and channeling it into a creative space, a creative place, is amplifying the positive as opposed to what feels like it is limiting and hindering you right now. Now, again, this type of energy, it feels hairy. It doesn't necessarily feel super pleasant. It can almost come through that moment of not being able to put your finger on how you're feeling. Being able to investigate this right now is effectively allowing a point of recognizing what you feel is ready or necessary to change right now to facilitate better easement going forward. Now, again, ironically, because again, this is almost the amplification on showing the fact that even in the divine union frequency, it's not that everything is perfect. Sometimes things are easier to navigate in separation as opposed to being in the frequency of divine union. This energy right now is effectively in separation, what is now creating new possibilities. And again, this is going to feel like a little bit of that threshold energy in relation to situations and circumstances, because we see here energetically right now in separation, a lot of energy is holding on to situations and circumstances that feel like they have reached an impasse or bypass point to try to identify and articulate if there's something that can be changed to facilitate better healing. If not, this is almost the communication to new energetic connections about past circumstances and experiences that have reached that level or degree of blockage. So this is either in separation right now, navigating this on a personal moment to identify and see if there's anything else that can come into a state of changing, or if something has like effectively reached an impasse point, or this is building new energetic connections by describing and articulating the limitation point that you've reached around some other situations and connections. So we see here, do you identify and recognize that even now some of that feeling of frustration is being channeled into a point of productivity? Now, masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This is looking at situations and circumstances that are creating difficulty points in relation to coming into deeper union right now. We saw that a lot of the energetic unions right now were almost ground tested, if you will, energetically and spiritually over the last week or so through situations and circumstances that felt like they were more inconveniences. And I need to stress this. If the inconvenience of a circumstance led to a separation point instead of coming back together, this was almost an amplification of situations and circumstances that were revealing themselves. The situation itself almost revealed what was creating a blockage in a connection, because we do recognize and identify here that situations and scenarios do not change things, they reveal things. So even now we see that while there may have been some energy that moved back into separation over practical hurdles or difficulties, we saw that a lot of other energy actually built tighter bonds with each other, looking at those as small inconveniences. Because when you're in an energetic alignment with someone, it's almost like those inconveniences all become navigable to a certain extent. It's just a question of how or why. So we recognize and identify here that one of the things that we're seeing is this is now of facilitating an observation point in what is feeling like some kind of obstruction point for coming into deeper union. This is why we effectively see right now, and this is where we start to see the energy that is in the divine union frequency and the energy that is very much on the outskirts coming into deeper alignment, because this feeling of frustration may be coming through right now in the nuanced differences between the masculine and feminine energy and their approaches to how to handle an obstruction, how to handle an inconvenience. This difficulty right now, even the solution to it, is one that both masculine and feminine are looking at from different places, and finding that ability to merge effectively is where we also see that amplification of the frustration energy is coming towards us. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here our 9 of Wands. Now, why are we seeing this 9 of Wands energy? Because this is amplifying the difference, how the difference in approaches between masculine and feminine are potentially in itself creating a sense or a state. I have to describe this best as, how do I explain this? It's going to feel a little bit like hypersensitivity, okay? Hypersensitivity. And that hypersensitivity, though, that we're seeing has to do, and this is what we're identifying now, the fact that energetically we have two different energies that are trying to move in the same direction, albeit through different ways. Why are we seeing this right now? Because we saw yesterday identifying in the masculine energy, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Masculine energy is looking to take much more immediate actions, much more immediate courses, much more immediate directions, problem, solution, creating a sense of change, creating a point of activation on what is identified as some kind of hurdle or blockage here. Feminine energy is doing the exact opposite. Feminine energy is saying, no, slow down, move more slowly. Let's not move to rush too quickly in a direction. Let's take a more methodical, slow approach. So both energies right now are feeling that tug of the other energy trying to come into a state of mutual agreement. And even then, having to come into that state, it's not a cozy feeling, because even in the divine union frequency, having to adjust to be in the harmony with the other energy, it creates a sensation of hypersensitivity, because it feels like a limitation factor that is required for progress. One feels like someone is going too slow. The other one feels like someone is going too fast. What do we find in the middle? A nice in between. But again, that feeling of in between might be creating a little bit of discomforture in the process, okay? Masculine and feminine right now coming into divine union. This could be some situations and scenarios wherein there were a lot of changes that were probably potentially proposed to circumstances and situations coming into divine union yesterday. May have been like even some surprising energy to a certain extent. But this moment, this is why we see, even energetically here, there may be a lot of conversations that are working in terms of making sure that someone isn't misunderstood, especially if this is masculine that took some kind of risk here, moved towards feminine in a very abrupt way, moved with a level of rapidness. This is feminine that's almost trying to amplify and articulate to the masculine energy that feminine doesn't like surprises. Feminine doesn't like surprises right now, because feminine energy is feeling the weight and the throttle in terms of trying to build a sense of trust with masculine energy. And that masculine energy right now, the best way that masculine energy can prove to feminine that there is something here that the feminine can feel safe towards, is having some kind of sensation here of consistency. We've been seeing consistency coming through over and over and over again in relation to some of these energetic energies right now coming into the divine union frequency. The trust being built is key. So there could be some amplification right now to help someone understand that if someone tried to take some kind of grand gesture yesterday or move something forward, especially on the masculine movement here, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, that any trepidation that feminine is amplifying to masculine isn't directly due to the feminine not wanting to move in that direction. It's feminine not wanting to throw caution at the wind. This is feminine wanting to see that this is not something that masculine is going to like make a decision on one moment and then potentially recalibrate the next. Feminine energy seeing masculine move with a lot of that expediency. While it is something that the feminine energy admires in the masculine, it is also something that is potentially triggering to feminine energy, because feminine energy is coming through, working through potentially spaces and places that have navigated experiencing masculine energy that's inconsistency in the divine union frequency may have led to some points of separation. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming in separation, we see even now there's been a lot of work right now in terms of coming to the truth around circumstances and situations that may have led to separation. And one of the things that we see here is for both masculine and feminine on the healing journey and in separation right now, these are almost finding each other at your most tender, at your most vulnerable. We almost see that both of these energies right now in separation are coming through the same process of trying to recover from situations and circumstances that have left them feeling damaged or wounded, potentially even circumstances or situations that they didn't necessarily feel like they wanted to let go of, but rather feel like they have effectively no other choice in it. This is energy that, again, this is the healed energy in separation that feels like they are in separation because they have been too deeply wounded by a circumstance or situation wherein they feel like they were trying to move forward from a place of openness and authenticity. We see this here with the feminine energy that effectively has been looking for that balance point, seeking out masculine energy that is able to come towards them with the same openness and honesty. If that led to reactivity, we see even now feminine energy is in a process of letting go of something, but aspiring and hoping that it can come back in a healed form. We've got masculine energy in separation right now. If they tried to lead with integrity and openness, but instead of the feminine being able to accept that level or degree of authenticity and openness, that led to the feminine pushing the masculine away. This is masculine that's also coming into a point of recovery, because this is masculine that feels like they found themselves and lost a potential connection with feminine in the process. These energies right now in separation are hesitantly moving towards each other. And it's going to feel like a slow process, but that's the difference between a campfire and a firework. This ability right now to move in that careful way is almost expressing and articulating in a mutual sense of joint healing, experiencing and relating one's own past experiences, building together in that way by identifying what has led you into that point of healing. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here our 6 of Swords in its upright. A lot of heavy energy this week, my friends, a lot of heavy energy. And one of the things we see here is a lot of this energy right now that is moving forward through and in separation. It's going to feel like there is some heaviness here. This is energy that almost feels like it is going through some level or degree of healing process. These are energies that see effectively coming in separation, not because of one's own desire for something to reach that inviolability point, but from a point of feeling the obstruction is one that one has done everything that one can do, and feeling like someone has not energetically been able to meet you in that same directionality. And this is why I see right now that one of the things that's happening in separation, this is almost like why we see energetically right now that even those connection points that you're building, they may feel like they are more authentic, because they are coming through via a true energetic connection. But how is that energetic connection being formed? Sharing grief, sharing difficulty, sharing hardship. How is this happening right now? Well, because we've got masculine energy in separation that just came into separation from trying to move from a state of integrity, wanting to build openly with feminine, experiencing a moment that potentially got pushed away at a time that they felt like they were becoming their most authentic sense of self. Masculine isn't stepping back from that journey here. We see that this is masculine, almost recognizes that once one moves into integrity of the self, you can't really walk back out of it. You can't really go back. You can't go back. You can't go put the mask back on that you just removed to a certain extent. It did, because it now feels like you found that more authentic part of yourself. So this, even now we see that this is masculine feeling like they're deeply on a healing journey, but that healing journey, it's like it's taken a heavy toll, if you will, because this is potentially masculine energy to a certain extent, experiencing the fact that that journey into authenticity has caused a point of potential injury. But we see here that that ability now to effectively articulate on that, express that, what is it doing for new energetic connections? It is building a bridge. And this is either coming into a state or a space of recovery with energy of feminine that is also coming into the same exact state, or this is building new bridges with connections that are similarly in the same scenario, which is, again, feminine energy that feels like they have been doing all of the energetic lifting in some circumstances or scenarios, that they felt like there was some kind of deep integral imbalance versus what the feminine was being forced to provide to a situation versus a masculine that potentially feels like they weren't necessarily coming from a place of openness and building with the feminine so much as seeing feminine as this like home base, as like a place of comfort, but not necessarily building with the feminine so much as building something that felt like it was more imbalanced or relying on the feminine to continue to drive it forward. That is why we see for a lot of the feminine energy right now, this sense of stepping back from something. It doesn't even feel like they're walking away to a certain degree. It's almost stepping back to see if there's some kind of connection point that's there if the feminine doesn't put all the effort and energy into something. And what we're effectively identifying at this time is, again, a moment where the feminine is also going through some point of grieving here. And it's either leading to healing moments, energy that is coming towards the feminine with a sense of accountability and wanting to build a new connection. And it feels heavy even if that's happening, because you can't necessarily erase what has led to the point of this occurring, but you can, through active ability to recognize changes, be able to facilitate some path forward here. So this is either energy that is having someone energetically approaching the feminine here and saying that they understand and recognize what needs to be willing to change. Masculine also doing that work. Or these are new energetic connections that are occurring right now that feel like, it almost feels like carrying a space or place of deep emotional healing at a moment of connectivity. Like finding each other, it's almost like that feeling of like finding each other at their lowest, if you will. But that amplification is like building in a place of deep authenticity, because this isn't a moment of effectively hiding that wound from one another. It's almost building that sense of that openness and clarity that is allowing something to persist and persevere, even in the face of actively healing from something that has led you to be on this path to begin with. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here our 7 of Cups in its reversal. So one of the things that is really beautiful right now, energetically, is an understanding and a determination on what one truly desires and aspires right now. Now, again, for the energy right now that is in separation, if this is new energetic connections that are forming, it's going to feel like, in a way, like there's some kind of light that is coming on. Because it's almost this moment of effectively seeing and recognizing and identifying right now if these are new energetic connections that are almost having this moment of saying, me too. And almost feeling like that sense of being like, I know exactly what you're talking about. I was hurt in this way. So was I. This is what led me to be in separation. So was I. That ability right now in sharing that openness, that facilitating act right now of expressing these wounds, is building right now a bridge, new energetic connections. Because again, what are we seeing that's happening here? Is this coming from a state or space of blame? No, these are actually energetic connections that are moving in separation right now, saying to a certain extent to one another, I blame myself. I could have done better. I could have made some adjustments. They're almost saying to each other both what they experienced, and almost, again, these are new energetic connections that are almost saying, sounds to me like you did everything you could in a difficult situation. This is almost, again, building these bridges with one another through that sense of mutual accountability and understanding. And even now, we're seeing here that there's something that feels like, again, the authenticity is being amplified, almost not from a point of excitement. This is going to feel like more of that solar plexus energy, if you will, because it's feeling that sense of true authenticity. And there's heaviness here. There's a weight here. It is the weight of authenticity. And even that recognition point right now, it feels like a lot of energy is getting grounded, being able to find that like true viable connection right now. But it's coming at a point where someone is very much experiencing that hypersensitivity as we identified. So this is, again, coming into a state of either new energetic connections that are forming or energy that is coming back together through a path of healing. And I need to stress that this path of healing is not something that potentially occurs overnight. This is something that may have required some kind of time, effort, and energy in someone truly understanding and going through a healing journey here to be able to amplify and articulate what they would have done differently. So those true authentic connections that are coming through right now aren't just that mollification point of someone coming back and saying, sorry, I did that. This is someone almost effectively saying, I know what I'm apologizing for. I know what I could have done differently. I'm coming back towards you because I understand now what I should have been offering you that you were seeking. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union frequency now. We see a lot of energy that is moving into divine union right now with that sense of urgency. The interesting thing here is the fact that confidence in recognizing and knowing what you desire, it is creating different energetic frequencies in masculine and feminine, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. What's happening with the masculine energy coming into the divine union frequency? Masculine, recognizing what it is that they desire, is rushing them forward extremely quickly, right? It's creating that space of masculine wanting to rush ahead and almost saying that the masculine is trying to amplify the feminine, that their conviction and desire to do so is because that is some kind of, it's amplifying how much they are choosing that feminine energy. Feminine, seeing the masculine move in this way, feminine also feels and recognizes that same desire, that sense of knowing what they want. For feminine, this doesn't build the same sense of rushing towards. What does feminine start to do when they're moving towards someone and they feel that safety and security? They want to move carefully. They want to move protectively. They don't want to rush ahead. They don't want to drop. They don't want to. It's like yeah. The egg exercise. Like the egg race. Right? This is masculine wanting to run ahead with the egg and a feminine going, slow down. No, we need to slow down with this. We need to move very carefully. So even now we see there may be this moment of recognizing and even healing, saying, listen, we both want the same thing. We're just taking different tactics on it right now. And even that right now, it is creating a space of catharsis that's coming through, but at a time of extremely heightened sensitivity. Now, masculine and feminine, they're already in the heart of the divine union frequency. This is going to amplify again as a bit of, and I'm sorry energy in the divine union frequency. This is going to feel like more prickly energy right now. It's going to feel more prickly because this, you see how this energetic frequency works very well right now to help get energy into the divine union frequency. When you're in it, it feels more like a point of frustration. It's going to feel more like you're like potentially rubbing each other the wrong way inadvertently, because that nuanced approach, while you recognize it is a point of empowerment, sometimes it can create feelings of frustration, because for the energy right now that's already in the heart of the divine union frequency, this isn't necessarily feeling like a trust building exercise because the trust is already there. So for that feeling, it's more about what to do with it right now. And it may be getting to a bit like nitpicking the details, nitpicking the particulars, having a bit of differentiation. Like I'm getting it's giving me like a little bit of this, like it's that nitpicking, like frustrating energy that you get. Two different people that are trying to do the same thing. Get out of my way. You're doing it the wrong way. No, I do it this way. It's going to start feeling like a little bit of that. So being very not mindful of this right now and holding space for each other. Just go take a walk, drink some water, take a walk. Everybody needs to chill out, okay? Because I know I can already see here that even now there's some energy that's like working on apologizing, because it's almost having to say to each other, I don't know why I'm feeling so sensitive right now. Hopefully this gives you some clarity as to why. The divine union energy is effectively having to take some energetic taking for the team, if you will, for like the energy that's down coming into the divine union frequency, because this energetic signature doesn't help the energy in the divine union frequency as much as it does the energy coming into it, okay? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is, again, I have to express though, and this will effectively help right now, okay? Like, you know, I have to say that there's something about this right now. For the energy in the divine union frequency, this is almost going to feel like, you know, the joke on this is almost like bickering like an old married couple. You know, that's almost like what we're seeing here for the energy in the divine union frequency. That in a way, and even now we're seeing that it's almost this moment. This is like the blessing and the curse of knowing someone so intimately. It's like when you're in that space of knowing someone so intimately, again, you can recognize and you can feel that full breadth of expansion and that level and degree of care. But what we're effectively seeing here right now is even again, understanding and recognizing that you both have a very particular way of doing something. You know, it's like you're both trying to move towards the same long-term outcome. It's all about the details. It's all about suffering over how that's going to be done and getting very particular. This is again potentially coming through. There's going to be some like silly arguments that are opening up today around like little nuancy, nitpicky kind of things to a certain extent. Because for the energy in the divine union frequency, this is like fine tuning on the radio. You know what I mean? This is like trying to get like you're both like futzing with the dial in terms of like where you want to be. Okay. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union frequency right now. This is also you kind of moving in that way right now, which again is requiring a point of clarification, especially if masculine or feminine felt overly sensitive about the way something was done here that is now reaching a mollification point. Because again, this is masculine almost trying to say to feminine, I'm trying to rush forward right now because this is the way that I'm expressing. This is my love language right now. This is me showing you that you are my choice. And this is feminine almost saying to masculine, saying, I know, I'm trying to slow things down right now because I don't want us to move too quickly and accidentally spoil something. I'm trying to move slowly right now and be methodical because, again, that is my way to amplify how much I care about us. So that point here is, again, more of that futzing at the dial. But even now we're seeing that that is what is effectively proof testing the energy that can stay in the divine union frequency, because recognizing and trying to come into harmony with one another, you're doing that work right now. You're not letting it push you apart. You're letting it recognize that you both have different approaches to the same long-term end goal. And we see here that recognizing this, the energy in the divine union frequency right now is taking a little bit of that approach of understanding and recognizing that you can be moving in the same direction and wanting and desiring the same things. You might have different ways of feeling like there's more than one way to like crack an egg. It's almost like coming through like that. And so we see here that the energy right now in the divine union frequency is moving over all of these smaller details. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. This is the amplification on energy that feels like it can actually is ready and willing to come into that point of recognizing that ability to match energy versus the energy that's not. Because what we're effectively seeing right now is, again, a lot of new energetic connections that are coming into being right now, specifically holding forth. And this is really beautiful energy. This is a lot of energy in separation right now. And it's going to feel like a slow unpacking process because it's coming out of a point of trauma, recognizing and moving away from something that you may feel like you've reached some kind of impossibility vector on. This is heavy energy. These are sensitive spaces here. This is these are energetic frequencies that feel effectively like they've done everything they can possibly think of to fix something, and they're effectively feeling out of options. That is forcing the energy right now to move forward almost against their own desire. And what is the energy moving towards right now? Do you see what the energy is moving towards right now? The energy is moving towards other energy that just separated out of situations and circumstances that they feel were beyond their control to fix, with a sense of sadness and loss. These two energies are primed and set to meet one another, and it feels like, again, finding each other at a moment of deep vulnerability that leads to breakthrough, because the ability right now to build forth from this moment is energetically showing two energetic signatures, the energetic signatures that have come through that journey of self-discovery and have ended up in separation on the other side of it, and are now primed to come into idealized union scenarios. Now, there is some energy here in separation that was moving into a space or place wherein the circumstances were requiring more self-work. That's going to articulate itself right now, potentially, around some masculine energy that wasn't necessarily ready to build forth with feminine, wasn't necessarily to move from a place of openness, honesty, and clarity. And even now we see, to a certain extent, this could be feeling like a moment of observation. We see that there's some energy here that may be experiencing the full breath about the fact that we see and understand that when we move in a space of trying to build illusion for another, all we effectively do is build a space of illusion for ourselves. So this could be articulating and amplifying as some feelings of dissatisfaction with one's own personal journey right now if this has been occurring, because one is almost realizing that that false sense of self that you thought you were painting to the other was actually a false sense of self that you were almost relegating to yourself in the process. So there may be a moment for a lot of the masculine energy right now that may be feeling very, very spiritually heavy, but is allowing for something that feels like a bit of energetic breakthrough on the other side of that. Because recognizing and understanding that is providing you the key to be able to come into better understanding of the self and what feels like it's best aligned to you going forward. While for feminine energy right now, that recognition or that availability and understanding potentially masculine that's trying to move towards you from a state of openness and honesty right now is the amplification of a masculine that's trying to show you via their own openness, their own level or degree of commitment towards you. That same level or amplification here is one that is also recognizing the journey for the feminine, but that is coming through about the feminine looking into a state of authenticity of the self within the self right now to determine what that ideal long-term possible scenario is, and energetically who and how they feel they need to be in connection with to be able to facilitate that. So a lot of conversations potentially happening right now with even in moments of separation as to what one ideally desires in the long term to be able to facilitate better harmony going forward. A lot of healing coming through in this frequency via V. It's heavy, it's hard work, it's heavy lifting. Continuing to get clarity on these cards right now between our Death card in its reversal in combination with our Nine of Wands. May I please have one card to clarify? It's triggering. There's no other way I'm going to say it. It is triggering right now. I don't want anybody coming into a state of reactivity over an abandonment wound right now. I know you're feeling it. I know you're potentially feeling the weight of it. You're probably feeling like a little bit of that old wound surfacing, old past scenarios, the situations where you may have moved more from that trigger, more from addressing an abandonment wound. But what are we seeing that is happening right now for the energy that is moving into better healing? Not letting yourself come into a point of reactivity, taking a moment of deep observation at a time when an abandonment wound is being triggered, that is now allowing for a point of recognizing what feels like it is useful versus what feels like it would just make something worse. So what we're effectively identifying right now, and the problem with this right now, this is why we're experiencing something that feels, especially for the energy in the divine union frequency, it's just going to feel like heaviness. It's going to feel frustrating because this is almost a moment where you may be inadvertently triggering each other, specifically because we are seeing here that abandonment wound, what happens frequently when masculine experiences that abandonment wound? Masculine wants to rush forward. Masculine wants to take that point of activation. Masculine energy, it's like taking your hand off of a hot plate. Masculine wants to jump back from it. What does feminine want to do? Feminine doesn't want to move quickly. Feminine wants to freeze up. Feminine energy wants to stay put. Okay? This is what we're seeing energetically that's happening right now between these energies. So both energies are potentially feeling triggered by the activation point of seeing the other's abandonment wound come to the surface. So what do we do when we experience those moments? Do we amplify them? No, we don't amplify them. We don't amplify them. We observe our own reactivity moments. We recognize, we say to the other, FYI, when this happens, I have a tendency of doing X. When I feel triggered like this, I have a tendency of doing Y. That ability to identify, it doesn't mean that you can get rid of your abandonment wound. I hate to break it to you guys. You can't move the abandonment wounds. The abandonment wounds just don't wake up and woohoo, the abandonment wounds are gone. No, they're going to stay there. You observe them. You observe them. You observe them and you articulate upon them to overcome the blockage. And we see that even now for the energy in the divine union frequency, coming into alignment by navigating through your own triggers right now may feel a little difficult. And it may feel like there's a little bit of seizing up that's happening here because both energies want to move in the same direction, but they're being triggered by the actions of the other or their own way of navigating this in the process that is requiring finding that middle ground, finding that path work that feels like it will create a sense of comfort for both energetic frequencies. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. If you're feeling like this, if you're like sweating the small stuff right now, if you're going through and you're agonizing over details, if you're feeling that frustration of the other not exactly wanting to do it the way that you want to do it, but knowing that you both want to do it want the same thing, but you want to go about it in different ways, that ability to navigate through that nuance, that subtlety is also amplifying the energy that is, again, moving deeper into the heart of the divine union frequency. The divine union frequency isn't all sunshine and rainbows. It requires hard work. So even now, that observation point, coming into deeper understanding of the self, what do you do when you see someone else's abandonment wound? Do you amplify it? Or do you protect someone from your own abandonment wound? The energy in the divine union right now is observing and protecting the other from their own abandonment wounds. Masculine and feminine in separation right now, this energy is potentially leading now to new energetic connections that are actually going to be much more viable going forward in relation to being able to maintain the divine union frequency. Why do we say that? Because we just saw there are energies right now in separation that are going through a moment of relinquishing something that they feel like there is nothing that they can viably do right now to come into better alignment. It is difficult. It is a deep, hard thing to do. Energetically, there is a feeling of almost abandoning hope here, but feeling to a certain extent that one has no other work to do than to proceed forward on this time. This is not a situation or circumstance that we're seeing that someone is effectively losing hope on what they're trying to manifest. They're losing any kind of way of feeling like they can manifest it in a situation or scenario that is not giving back in kind. And we see here that even now, some of that trigger that is happening is potentially leading energy to bump into each other on this same journey of separation through observation of personal accountability, but also in recognizing the other in that moment and saying, I'm there too. I've also been hurt in that way. I've also experienced those moments. I also tried to do everything to fix something and I couldn't. So energetically, we see that this is energy that is meeting each other, coming into already in alignment, even at a point of separation. Continuing to get clarification, and it might not feel great. I'm going to be honest, guys. It's not going to potentially feel like you're meeting this other energy and it's like, boo, like sparks and fireworks, because the energetic connections coming through in this time build forth more from that deeper solar plexus energy, that grounding element of finding one another and being able to provide what is needed while you are moving together on that same journey. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Nine of Wands in combination with our Six of Swords. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Ace of Cups in its reversal. This is going to feel, this is like this energy today. It's emotionally, spiritually, it feels very draining. It feels very much like an energy of exhaustion, even for the energy in the divine union frequency. And in a way, potentially even more so for the energy in the divine union frequency, because it doesn't allow for a facilitation of giant action so much as it does for the energy that is in separation. This energy right now, this point of exhaustion, do you see this right now? This is the type of energy we see on karmic connections where someone is feeling so exhausted, so wounded, so emotionally and spiritually drained that they potentially feel that they have no other way to move than away from something. This is what I'm seeing here. This is what I'm experiencing as it relates to the seeing and observing here, that these energies in separation right now, they effectively feel to a certain extent that they need to move forward for the sake of their own emotional and spiritual benefit. This is almost looking at some observing right now, some situations in separation that, again, some energies may be holding forth on and basically saying, again, it's like that feeling of throwing one's hands up and saying, I can't do anything else. I'm out of options. I'm out of possibilities. And this is why we see that for the feminine energy in this modality right now, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, this is feminine that almost feels like they're proceeding forward in separation, almost like in a grieving process, almost saying to themselves, I'm never not going to feel this way. I'm never going to, this is it. This is like, it's all like this. I'm always going to feel like this right now. But that's that moment. This is giving a lot of that like darkest before the light kind of energy here, because what we're effectively seeing right now is this isn't coming through just on the feminine modality right now. This is coming through on also on the masculine modality. Potentially, again, masculine energy that was trying to build forth from feminine, from a state of openness and honesty. If that led to separation, this is also masculine energy that's basically effectively saying to a certain extent, I feel like I have done everything that I can do. I am energetically and spiritually exhausted. I was trying to build forth with feminine from a point of integrity. So we see here that both of these energies in separation are moving away from things right now with a lot of that heaviness, a lot of that feeling of like despair, like it's almost going to feel like a heavy, like that gut sinking despair type of energy here. And what's going to happen potentially on the way? Bonk. Bumping into each other on that path. Now, we do also see some energy in separation right now, coming into some deep potential accountability and separation, especially if these are situations and circumstances wherein one is assessing or ascertaining that someone tried to come towards someone from a point of integrity. This could express some portion of the energy in separation right now that is starting to take fuller accountability of steps or actions that may have led them to be in a space or state where you may feel like you have self-isolated or caused some of this to happen around you. But even now we see that coming into that point of energetic forgiveness is beginning with a heightened care of the self. So we see that even across that threshold here, this observation of having to start to take better care of oneself is almost the amplification and recognizing that when you start to give love to yourself, you are better equipped to be able to give that love to those around you. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This modality is coming into a point of mutual alignment. And it feels very much like there may be some energy right now. Again, even the energy that's either coming into the divine union frequency or in the heart of the divine union frequency right now, that may feel some energetic or emotional exhaustion right now. Because again, there's this potential feeling about both trying to move in the same direction, but having very different ways to do it right now, that may be feeling like it's making things harder right now instead of easier. That same energy is what amplifies frequently a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency. But occasionally we do see that coming into alignment like that fine tuning that is necessary here, it can start to feel a little energetically or spiritually draining. So we recognize and observe here that even now, how do we come into better alignment through that moment of feeling energetically or spiritually drained? We look towards the other. We amplify the ability to care for another. We articulate what we need and we express what we need, and also we express what we need to provide the other. So even now, that observation point, trying to come into alignment, it's feeling like it is hard work. Because again, this is that feeling of having to have a little bit of energetic sacrifice while also being able to find that point of modification. This is what we mean. This is where that hard work of the divine union begins, because the divine union doesn't always mean that you just do whatever you want all the time. It means you come into what feels comfortable in the frequency. So recognizing this right now feels like a little bit of calibration, particularly around masculine and feminine energy right now. Masculine wants to move forward to overcome any obstacles right now. Feminine wants to take a slower, more conscientious approach to things. And even now, that is potentially triggering to the other energy, because it feels or is articulated almost to the other energy as the opposite of what effective care looks like right now. So being able to recognize and articulate on your intentionality right now is going to effectively help any of these feelings. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Six of Swords in combination with our Seven of Cups in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Hangman energy. It feels, it's frustrating. It's frustrating energy all across it right now. All across the frequencies. It's just coming through in different ways. I have to stress the energy right now that is coming into divine union. This is going to feel much more productive. It's going to feel much more productive because there's more of an amplification in relation to choice. We are seeing here for the energy coming into the divine union frequency, this is going to be the amplification of energy really committing to being with one another in the divine union frequency. What do we see one needs to do when you're already moving into the heart of the divine union frequency? It is the act of recognizing that, again, commitment is often amplified by what we are willing to let go or surrender to a certain extent. So we even see and identify here that ability of coming into mutual agreement, coming into compromise, finding what feels comfortable energetically. Even for the energy in the divine union frequency, it's finding that point of like modification, that balance point, but it's also securing that sense of stability. Because that level or degree of care of each other, seeing one another, being conscientious of the other person's desires, making room for another person's desires, making adaptability points, making adjustments, each other doing that is amplifying energetically the fact that there's an ability to do so. So this is, again, even now, this is moving a lot of energy, getting deeper into the heart of the divine union frequency through their own ability of coming to that point of compromise, even in a moment of a lot of breakthrough. So a lot of energy getting a lot of potential changes that are happening, potentially even changes that were facilitated yesterday that are now being nuanced upon today, which could create a little bit of, like, again, it's like the headache, but it's like the positive headache. It's like moving in a good direction, but like, it's like party planning kind of energy. What color napkins do you want? You know what I mean? Masculine and feminine that are in the divine union frequency, it's going to feel more difficult because you don't have the type of energy to utilize this to like plan a party. Maybe you should start planning a party. Because it's going to feel more like you're nitpicking on things right now. But again, It is in terms of the expression of the immediate situations and scenarios. It may even feel for a lot of the energy right now in the divine union frequency that you can't even articulate on why you're feeling this way. Because again, it's almost just the fact that it's in the air right now, the way that you're experiencing this. And it feels more frustrating for the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency because like you don't have as many places to put it. There's not something here. There may be even now like masculine may be trying to put this somewhere by like making some kind of grand gesture or wanting to make some kind of big change or something right now that we're seeing. It's almost like the masculine trying to energetically get this out right now by making some kind of like big decision or wanting to make big decisions, and feminine being like, slow it down. Like feminine being like, what are you doing? Because feminine's also feeling that, but it's not something that feminine is moving as an activation point on. Feminine's taking more of a wait and see approach to see if that feeling lasts. Masculine and feminine both trying to move towards the same direction right now, but potentially triggering each other in the process. Now, how do we work through that trigger? We don't indulge the trigger. We articulate on the fact that we are triggered. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is why we see that there's a letting go process that's occurring right now. There is a release process that's happening. Because again, even energetically right now, we see that for a lot of the energy in separation, this movement away from something is not amplifying so much an act of choice. This isn't energy that is moving away right now from one choice to another. It feels to a certain extent right now like the energy in separation feels like they're moving away from something because they have no choice. And that moment, taking that wait and see approach is almost that hope and aspiration that the energetic equivalent that's caused the point of separation will effectively find. It's like this is an opportunity, a window that's opening for someone to get on the same page as someone energetically now. Because we see here, do you see like it's almost like that scale that's starting to shift in terms of whether someone feels like they're waiting or whether that sense of waiting has now articulated upon moving on. It's almost like the time itself is now pushing that energy over to the other side and say, I'm not really waiting because I've been in this space so long. This is maybe just the way I feel now. So this is that moment that is amplifying the difference between feeling like one is waiting for something versus that identification that you are healing from something. So even understanding that right now, that shift and recognizing that that is occurring, it's being amplified in the articulation of the experience. And we see here that there may be something about someone realizing that they are now in a state of recovering from something, even as they are actively expressing it to new energy. So this is either energy that is coming towards someone from a state of having gone through this process of healing, or this is energy that is now making a new energetic connection by articulating on a path that amplifies the weight of what may have led you to this moment versus what you're also bringing forth. So we see here that this is a lot of new energetic connections that are potentially happening at a moment that almost like the energy is saying, I don't think I'll ever recover from that. As they're in the process of doing so. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 7 of Cups in its reversal and our 6 of Wands. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our 2 of Pentacles. So for a lot of the energy right now in separation, it may feel very difficult because we see here what is effectively happening. Feminine energy and masculine energy, both in separation right now. Going back and forth right now, potentially through the past experience and the present experience. The past experience and the present experience. And even now, there's a moment that saying to oneself, I feel like I did everything I could. I had no choice but to leave. I had no choice but to move away from something. I didn't even effectively left. I effectively said that I needed some kind of change to occur in order for something to move forward. This is the recognition point that your own choice to say, I don't need to stay in a space or place that is causing too much difficulty, that is becoming too difficult, that's not facilitating healing, that was the moment you chose your healing. So we see that even in separation right now, that ability of modification and understanding, for some of the energy right now, we're even seeing it's that observation of saying, if I probably went back to that, it would probably still be there, but it wouldn't be in the form that I would aspire and desire it to. It would require me to kind of fit back into something that I recognize and realize isn't necessarily for me. That ability of understanding and identifying this right now, this is where we see that even through the articulation of this to others right now, it's like you're holding space for that choice or that other option. But the more that you see it, you're starting to see the differences between what you're now moving towards versus what you're releasing. And for a lot of the energy in separation right now, this could be feeling like that sense of frustration is coming on the verge of a breakthrough moment. Because we see that for a lot of this energy in separation right now, even articulating upon this right now, articulating on what may have led you in this moment of separation to other energy is helping you build a better understanding of what it is that you truly aspire and desire towards right now. There could even be a moment of comparison that we're seeing right now in relation to the difference of feeling and experiencing energy that is in alignment with you, as opposed to energy that feels like it was pulling away or oppositional. So this is why we see right now, energetically, there is this moment, and this energetic imbalance right now is actually creating the balance. How is the balance happening? A lot of energy in separation, literally building connections by articulating on the imbalances that they have either been actively experiencing or making the choice to move away from. So we see even now that this is leading to heightened productivity, which is why we see energetically this feeling of frustration is amplifying progress right now in the realms of separation and coming into divine union. While for the energy that's more in the heart of divine union right now, it's just feeling like something that you have to navigate. It's feeling more frustrating because this is that feeling of nuance that's entering the equation, and both recognizing that you're driving in the same direction. You both want to go in the same way. You're doing the same things. You have the same goals. It's just the way that you do something that is requiring a little bit more confusion right now, because you're trying to find that sense of mutual comfort that makes it a little bit more challenging. Being in divine union isn't easy. This is why it's not easy to be in divine union. It takes, again, you have to be holding a lot of multiple path work at the same time. So yes, it's not always, this is that feeling of like, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. It takes hard work. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Here's that hard work. See these triggers? See this overwhelm between our Five of Pentacles in its reversal and our Ace of Cups in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. This is that feeling of not wanting to wait. There's a lot of this energy right now in trying to speed up the timeline on things. Masculine particularly, we saw, and this is one of the things that's happening right now, this nuance change between masculine and feminine right now. What do you do when you're feeling that point of frustration? And this is why we see this could be leading right now for some of this feeling about being a little bit more on edge today. Because again, masculine is almost looking towards things right now to try to speed up processes. We even saw this yesterday. There was a lot of conversation we saw on the cards about trying to bring manifestation goals into fruition sooner rather than later. So we see here that this is almost a lot of conversation between masculine and feminine right now, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Masculine potentially looking at feminine saying, why can't we speed this up? Why can't we move things to that point quicker? And this is feminine, masculine almost saying, your desire to delay here is making me feel like you don't necessarily want to move towards that manifestation goal. What's feminine doing in this moment? Feminine saying to masculine, your ability to rush through something right now, I feel is an anxiety point because it might not necessarily feel like it is energetically the best. This is feminine saying, I am afraid of disrupting the balance that has already been reached in the divine union frequency. that your ability, your desire to move forward in a faster way towards something may effectively lead to something that may create more chaotic energy than is intended. So we see here that both energies are almost saying, your ability to rush things right now is triggering me. Masculine saying, your ability to slow down right now is triggering me. Both need to effectively remember, you're going in the same direction. Focus on what you're trying to manifest right now and recognize that this is an issue around nuance. So trying to find that modification point right now can be feeling a little energetically and spiritually draining, because even now, it doesn't mean this is what happens when you're in divine union. You can't just get everything you want all the time the way that you want it. That's not divine union. It is finding a way of coming into balance and what feels like it is best energetically in alignment. What brings you both into a sense of comfort? What brings the collective energy into a point of comfort right now? It's frustrating right now, and it's triggering for the energies. Bearing in mind, again, not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Now, masculine and feminine right now that are coming into divine union, this is much easier. This is solutions. This is the speeding up of plans. And potentially, energetically right now, this is feminine energy coming on board a bit more faster with masculine energy, because what is masculine potentially amplifying right now to the energy coming into divine union? This is masculine almost amplifying to feminine, that desire and need to speed things up is almost like the masculine energy articulating to feminine the unnecessity, like the lack of necessity in any kind of energetic situation or circumstance that feels like it's like not necessary to have that distance or that hold up. So we see here that for the energy coming into divine union right now, this is actually a positive, because again, this is almost like masculine trying to lead the charge to feminine and saying, I don't see any reason that we should wait. You're everything I'm looking for. Like, this is great. Why are we waiting? And feminine's now taking more of a like, well, I feel the same, but I don't see any reason to rush things. So we see here that this energy right now, this is beautiful to see right now for the energy coming into the divine union frequency, because it's almost like a little jump start deeper into the heart of the divine union. Now, masculine and feminine in separation, this is also an energetic boon, because this ability right now to feel a point of exhaustion and frustration in terms of feeling like something that you're waiting on versus something that you now feel abandoned from is now creating a sense of time's up. This is almost a moment right now of, again, the weight of solitude, of isolation. If this is something that someone pulled away from and said, I need you to bring this forth to me, and this has not been brought forth, this is now almost energy that's saying that the ability to wait for something has reached its exhaustion point. Being able to look at something and say, I can't wait on this anymore. I can't look at this as something that I'm waiting on. I'm looking at this now as something that I'm healing from. That ability to do that right now is amplifying the tipping of point between waiting and healing. So a lot of energy right now could be saying, I'm not waiting for someone to like heal. I am now healing from something that someone could not, that I need to heal from. So that ability right now to move out of a space of saying, I'm waiting for someone to heal, to saying, I need to heal from someone, is now being amplified and allowing a movement forward, even at a time that one may be feeling very raw and vulnerable. So we see here that this is almost like an active energetic release. So that overwhelm energy, you can see why we need to kind of deal with it right now if you're in the divine union frequency, because that is what's effectively allowing some energy to go find that energetic equivalent of other divine union energy. Like the energy is like going to find itself now, but it's requiring that like that sharpness, if you will. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Ace of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Hanged Man. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now in terms of Lovers in its reversal. This is that moment and experience for a lot of masculine and feminine energy and separation. If there's energy that's been waiting on another energy, This is that moment that we're seeing that the waiting itself is being amplified in the fact that there isn't a positive energetic connection here. Because this is that amplification point in recognizing and experiencing circumstances and situations, especially if there's been something here about waiting for someone to come forward, waiting for someone to heal. That the waiting itself is feeling like it has reached an energetic or spiritual exhaustion point that is recognizing and identifying and saying, it's almost amplifying a connection that one is now healing from because it wasn't energetically balanced. Because that ability right now to effectively wait is almost being reminded right now of, again, the fact that even our own patience is a gift we give the other. And reaching that culmination point here energetically is a moment that someone is looking at something and saying, I am ready to surrender, holding on to something, because the amount of time now that someone has not effectively come forward here is something that I now need to heal from. So we see that even now, new energetic connections are potentially being made at this time by what? Amplifying what has led to the point of separation. And it could even be a lot of energy right now that's potentially articulating to the other one saying, like, I don't know if I'm actually ready for a relationship. I'm still healing from a lot of these wounds. And the other energy saying, like, yes, me too. Because we're seeing here that this is a very raw, vulnerable state, effectively, that these energies are coming towards each other in. And they're almost looking at each other going, it's not going to be this. It's not going to be this because I'm not in a state for it. You're both on a healing path. Congratulations. You just probably met the person. Okay? Masculine and feminine that are coming into divine union right now. These inconveniences, these frustrations, these are all coming through in the point of intangibles. So a lot of the energy right now, this is that moment of saying whatever is preventing us from having a better unified experience is just, it's too energetically exhausting right now. That's why, again, if a lot of these situations reach some kind of point because of practical inconveniences that happened over the last 2 weeks, this is the energy now of masculine wanting to take some kind of like immediate prompt action to just overcome anything that is making the divine union too difficult to navigate. Because again, when your priority is on maintaining the divine union frequency, anything else that is in the way of it is just something that is a navigable, an easily navigated change or adjustment. So we see and recognize here that for a lot of the energy right now coming into divine union, that mutual sense right now of what to do to facilitate better union, it's more about, again, it's going to feel like a little bit of like that radio dial trying to figure out like what works. Because again, this is where we see the energy in the divine union frequency. Masculine wanting to take more direct action, feminine wanting to take a little bit more of a wait and see approach. Both energies potentially getting triggered by the way that they're experiencing the other. But again, being able to navigate through that hurdle right now is further amplification of an ability to stay in the divine union frequency, because it's showing your own ability to recover through moments that you may not necessarily be moving in the same way. Because being able to take those two energies and come into a state of mutual agreement is the power of the energy of the divine union. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Hanged Man energy, but it's not easy. It's not feeling like all is peaceful in the kingdom today. It feels more like, that struggle point to come into a point of alignment. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Hanged Man and our Two of Pentacles. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with... Do you see this combination today? You see this combination today? If you're in divine union, today is going to just feel really... it's just going to feel real frustrating. It's going to be like misunderstandings, miscommunications, a lot of clarifications potentially coming through to a certain extent. Because what were we seeing here? We're seeing here that the differences in the energetic frequencies are why these energies work so well together. Okay? It doesn't require you guys to be on the same page at every single moment. It requires that moment of understanding that you're better for your differences. You're better for your approaches. That looking at from a point of a multifaceted approach to something is a gift, even though sometimes it can make things more difficult. So even now, for the energy in the divine union frequency, this is going to be one of those moments like, God, you drive me crazy, but only you can drive me crazy like this. Because it's that moment of recognizing that sense of frustration, that sense of like that vibration between someone being so close to you, but also knowing you so well, but also being able to navigate in this space. There may be a little bit of bickering today. There may be a little bit of frustration. There may be a little bit of like, you know, white wine, red wine, you know, like this one, or that one. Like a lot of that, like, you know, do you want sushi or do you want tacos? It's like one of those moments, like you're like, but like at the same time, it wins out, right? Because even in the disharmony here, we see that even when the energy of the divine union is in disharmony, they're in perfect harmony, even in the vibration of disharmony, right? So when they're sensitive, everybody's sensitive, okay? It's like even then, it's like they're both sharing the modality. That in itself is almost showing the fact that these energies, even in their discord, come into alignment. Masculine and feminine that are coming into the divine union frequency, this is effectively that moment or opportunity that we see is overcoming hurdles and challenges, but are also fortifying the partnership in the process. Because this is that moment. This is like giving like, oh, we had our first fight. Like it's giving, but like even now, it's like one of those moments that we're effectively seeing, because it is showing the productivity, the positivity that can arise even in a moment of disruption. This is almost looking, and this is almost energy that's coming into divine union right now, saying like, if this is the worst we get, then this is perfect. Because it's almost understanding that there's something about even a moment of discord here still being in alignment that is fortifying this to a certain extent. Energy that is effectively in separation, this is meeting one another at a point of something coming to a robust end. So there's a lot of energy right now that might literally be saying to the other person right now, I don't think I'm actually ready to be with someone. Guess what? Yes, you are. Because if the other energy goes, me neither. Let's you know what? Here's an idea. Let's not be with other people together. We should do that. Let's just not be with other people together. Like that's almost like what we're seeing that's happening energetically right now in relation to some of the energy that is coming together in terms of the energy and separation right now. It's like, see that little tipping point that's potentially occurring here? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Between our Seven of Pentacles in its reversal, in combination with our Lovers in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? We like this. Knight of Cups in its upright. Now, masculine and feminine in separation. This is why we see that there's a lot of new energetic alignment that's potentially coming through right now. And that energetic alignment is potentially going to either be expressing itself as feminine, building new connection points with masculine that are leading from the heart, open heart space. Are we surprised to see this? No. Did we just see a bunch of feminine energy that came into separation because they were releasing situations or circumstances wherein the masculine was not leading with an opening of the heart space? Yes. So what we're effectively identifying right now is this is feminine coming through and receiving that manifestation, because feminine energy has effectively rejected anything that's not meeting them in that modality. So what we're effectively identifying and recognizing right now is energetically, this is either leading, for some of the feminine energy right now, it feels very bittersweet, because this is feminine energy that is potentially, again, in the moment of recovering from something that feels like a very fundamental break, something that they've lost some kind of hope or expectation and coming into some point of healing. And here is this new energetic moment that is either facilitating and allowing for emotional healing. And this is either coming from the space or place of new masculine energy that is able to open up and speak to the feminine about these problems and hurdles, potentially even coming towards them right now and articulating and defining situations and circumstances that they themselves are leaving, that they also feel like they have done everything that they can on. They feel like there isn't much further that they can go, leading from a state of openness to integrity and honesty. Or this is masculine energy that has come into an understanding of self at a time of separation that has been long enough, wherein the masculine is now able to come towards the feminine and say, I understand what led to us coming into a moment of disillusion. I understand what I was not bringing towards you at a time that you were asking me to bring towards it. This is masculine coming from a true point of emotional availability and openness to say, I am willing to tell you how I feel, and I'm willing to tell you why I recognize that I was not leading in this way before. So this observation point of feminine seeing the masculine coming forward in a genuine, open, heartfelt way is being navigated right now and opened up by the feminine effectively walking away from anything that wasn't necessarily providing that. And we're seeing here that that's a very hard journey for the feminine right now. Because even now, this is why we see that the energy in the divine union is having to have the feminine hold back a little bit, because this is feminine energy that is moving forward with a sense of deep energetic caution to make sure that there is a consistency in this opening of the energetic heart space of the masculine. Masculine, if you're on the true healing path, that observational point right now, being able to lead with a state or space of true emotional authenticity. What's beautiful about this for the masculine in separation, you're not doing this with the hope of rebuilding a connection with feminine. You're doing this because this is who you are. You're doing this because, again, if you found yourself on the way, you can't think of any other way to do it now, because you've come into that sense of understanding of oneself and that sense of openness, that sense of emotional integrity. It's not something that you can open or close a box on. It's something that you just feel like you recognize you have to lead with going forward, because how else would you lead? When you recognize that you have the possibility of leading forth with emotional integrity, it almost feels impossible to put yourself in a space of falsehood again, because that's almost like denying yourself that gift of true emotional connection. So we see that for a lot of the masculine energy right now, coming through that like barrier of true vulnerability is potentially leading to some kind of energetic breakthrough here. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union right now. This is masculine effectively coming towards feminine right now and saying in a very true, genuine way, if this is a masculine that's trying to rush forward in a way to feminine faster than the timeline that they may have initially allocated to something, this is almost masculine amplifying from a place of openness and honesty the fact that the feminine has effectively helped them open their own heart space. And this is almost masculine trying to identify and articulate to feminine that rushing ahead is being amplified because the masculine did not expect to find themselves energetically in that point on this journey. So for the masculine energy to have found themselves in the journey with the feminine, this is masculine going like, I know this might not be what we talked about, but this is how I feel. This is what I desire. And so we see here that energetically for the energy of the feminine, seeing and recognizing that the masculine is coming from a place of deep authenticity, that even though there is something about potentially upsetting the apple cart here in terms of things rushing forward or moving at a faster pace, we see to a certain extent the feminine is feeling the security of coming into a divine union with a masculine that's leading from that authentic, open heart space. And that in itself is reassuring the feminine, even at a moment against their own sense of trepidation. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency, this is more of a frustrating energy right now, because again, this is going to potentially amplify in feeling like there is a sense of potential discord between how you want to move forward right now. And this is masculine coming into a state of again, one of the things that we see here, what is allowing for that point of easement? Feminine wants to always encourage the masculine to keep their heart space open. The feminine seeing a masculine and having their own heart desiring something, seeing the masculine come from a place of openness and desire. This is, again, the feminine energy and the divine union frequency wanting to effectively match the masculine's own heart space here. Because even now there could be a moment that feminine is, again, this is that mollification point. What is masculine doing if they want to rush forward right now and feminine's feeling hesitancy? This is masculine leading with the heart space and saying, I would rather do it this way, but I want to make you happy. And what is now feminine doing? Feminine is now doing, well, I want to make you happy, so I will be able to open forward. It starts with one being willing to go forward towards the other. Like all feminine needs was masculine opening up in that way, and then feminine opens up in kind. That ability, again, to find oneself and to recognize that their value is being placed on making the other happy is allowing this to become a moment of productivity, even at a space or place of upset or frustration, taking the negative and turning it into a positive. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Lovers in its reversal in combination with our Two of Cups. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Star in its reversal. Now, one of the things that we're effectively identifying right now is for masculine and feminine, even in the divine union frequency right now. There is this moment that we're seeing related to feminine and masculine coming into a point of mutual desire. And one of the things that we're seeing right now, especially for the feminine energy, is feminine energy. And I have to stress this. We saw this. I remember yesterday I said that one of the challenging spaces for the feminine yesterday had to do with looking too much on the outside and putting that weight on the self. This is more of that echo that we were seeing from yesterday. Remember that energy of comparison that was potentially coming through yesterday around the feminine? This is feminine going on the journey of valuing their own self and recognizing that they don't necessarily need to compare themselves to others. That when they go into a space or place of comparing their own self to others, all they effectively do is lower their own sense of self. So what we're effectively identifying right now is a lot of this internal journey for the feminine. This is where we see that these energies right now are coming into a state of mollification through the pathwork of having to navigate through some of those feelings of frustration. This is where we see the productivity vector coming in for the energy and divine union. Masculine, not necessarily rushing forward a way that they would aspire or desire right now, but instead leading towards feminine and saying, what can I do to make you feel secure? What can I do to make you feel stable? Where can I meet you? And this is feminine energy almost immediately coming back out of it versus their own self, because this is feminine energy saying, you know what? You can't do anything about it. This was a personal issue. This is feminine almost doing that personal unpacking of the self and saying, you know what? I'm recalibrating, because this was my anxiety in terms of seeing something and feeling like it was something else, or recognizing that my own ability to compare myself to others frequently puts me in a space that I start to devalue the self. So we see even now that this is feminine energy coming back out of it internally at the moment and experience of seeing the masculine. All the feminine needed was masculine giving that encouragement to them and reminding them and saying, I'm always going to be cognizant of what it is that you aspire and desire to. And that's feminine energy saying, well, I'm not necessarily asking that we not move in the direction you desire us to. I just needed to know that you are going to make sure that I do have a say, right? So that ability right now of feminine, the connection point almost being restored, even at a moment of conflict, is the feminine remembering and coming back to themselves through the masculine, observing and showing them their own value. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union frequency right now. This is energetically the same thing right now, especially if there was something about the feminine pulling back a little bit, and masculine now amplifying that desire to rush forward was because the masculine's heart space was opening. This is feminine, again, potentially articulating and amplifying to masculine why that sense of trepidation was there, potentially even amplifying how in the past, seeing masculine energy move in a way that felt like it was rushed was almost amplifying an inconsistency in a past connection. But even now, seeing the fact that masculine is showing a willingness and a care on the speed or the movement that feminine is feeling right now, being mindful of the feminine is almost reinforcing to the feminine that the past is not the present. And in a way, this in itself is almost the feminine unpacking a trigger that potentially is happening from a masculine that's showing emotional inconsistency. Because what is the emotional consistency doing now? It's hearkening back to the trauma of the past that was not consistent. It's almost acting as a clearer mirror to what feels like it is working, but at the same time raising up anything from the past that did not work. So it's like that moment that feels potentially overwhelming for feminine, because it's that moment of receiving what it is that you truly desire that immediately reminds you of those moments and opportunities that you did not get that. So we see that there's a lot of potential unpacking that's happening right now for feminine as it relates to the value of the self. Masculine, you may be seeing this to a certain extent, and that's why you may be emotionally supporting the feminine at this moment. Masculine and feminine in separation right now, what did I say is effectively happening? This is new energetic connections that are happening right now by feminine unpacking why the feminine is in this point at a moment that they're feeling very emotionally weak and vulnerable. This could even be right now, I'm telling you, this could be a feminine saying to masculine, I don't know if I'm ready for relationship. I don't really know if I'm ready for a connection. And this is masculine almost looking to feminine and saying, me neither. Who hurt you? What's your story? Let's talk about it. Because we see here that there's this energetic alignment that's happening right now between these energies. Both almost saying to each other, I am coming out of something that was, I don't even know, like it's not great. It was very much imbalanced, and finding each other in the process. So again, even now for the feminine going through this experience, it feels difficult because experiencing and seeing, getting this, any of these connections that are happening right now are almost potentially amplifying what effectively caused the separation in the first place. It's almost like suddenly receiving what you were looking for in a past experience in the present. You know, it's like that frustration point. So even now for the feminine, that point is coming very much to the surface. Masculine, the same as well. Being able, again, to come towards someone right now is amplifying someone who's ready to effectively receive you in a way that someone else wasn't. So even now we see these energies are like very much in alignment. It's just hard alignment. It's triggering alignment, but it's positive. Continuing to get clarification, final card for today's spread between our Knight of Cups in combination with our Star in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with productivity. What are we doing? What's the energy right now in the Divine Union doing? They're moving everything into a space or place of productivity. You're taking the difficulty. Look where we started the day. Blockages. Soft spots. How are we recovering from it? Are we going into our hidey holes? Is masculine taking swift action or becoming reactionary? No. Masculine is leading forward, doing the hard work of keeping the heart space open and emotionally opening up to feminine, pushing back against their own abandonment wound. Feminine. Is feminine just becoming reactive and throwing everything at the masculine? No. Feminine's taking that moment to assess, to ask oneself, what is in the power of the masculine to change versus what is within the feminine's power to come into alignment on. Having a productive space, utilizing this point of connectivity is allowing for new possibilities. So this is the energy coming into alignment. And it's difficult. Both energies have to kind of push themselves to do things that are hard for them. Masculine, doing a lot of work of staying emotionally open at a time that you're feeling that anxiety taking root. Feminine, coming into a space of recognizing one's own value, not letting yourself get triggered and assume the worst, but instead coming into a space of openness and communication. So what we effectively see here is that is allowing inspiration, productivity, path work forward by mutual conversation, not letting yourself get triggered today. Not letting yourself get triggered today. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This is masculine. If this was masculine that was trying to rush forward right now, I'm going to tell you exactly what this is going to look like. This is masculine that may have potentially overshot yesterday, wanted to take some kind of grand action. Feminine pulled back. It may have created some kind of miscommunication there. The ability to articulate right now, and effectively masculine saying, I was trying to rush forward because I care about you so much. This is feminine saying, well, I was getting a little bit anxious about it because it took me by surprise, is now leading to this actually being that point of celebration and planning that happens today, now that everyone's kind of got their feet back on the ground. So even now, that ability is, again, the energy is showing its own ability to remain consistent, even at a moment that may have felt like a little bit of a rough patch, because that is that moment we're almost seeing some energy saying like, oh, if that was our first conflict, we handled it with flying colors, effectively. Masculine and feminine in separation, what we are effectively identifying is, again, something that new. This is new. This is new connections, new possibilities, new opportunities, new breakthroughs now. Feminine, feeling very vulnerable and cautious in terms of receiving them. But again, seeing things moving in a positive direction, even through that moment of trepidation, because we see here now that there's masculine that's coming towards feminine in a point of separation, leading with the heart space. Masculine, if in separation right now, this is either coming into a state of understanding, being willing to open up to a feminine, having that internal breakthrough that is now allowing you to build back forth towards feminine, or this is the moment of masculine moving towards feminine with that uncertainty as to whether there'll be a connection there. But again, coming from a state of openness, authenticity, to begin a new connection. So even now we see that this is masculine energy coming into a point of healing, even at a point of solitude, because this is, again, what we love about this is masculine energy that's not even coming towards the feminine from this capacity out of a desire space. This is almost masculine energy coming forth and saying, I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing this because this is the way that I move now. And if this is a new connection, so if this is a recovering moment, this is almost masculine coming towards feminine and saying, I know this might be a little too late, but I want you to know these things have occurred within me. Or this is masculine energy making new energetic connections with feminine to take a bit of a wait and see approach, but doing so and having that correction point and bringing integrity and openness to the forefront as they build those connections. Bottom of the deck, King of Wands in its reversal. Now for masculine right now, one of the things that we're recognizing and identifying, I keep seeing this for the energy that's working in this healing capacity right now, identifying and recognizing the limitations of the past self should not become a point where you're holding yourself overly negative. Because what we're effectively seeing here is something that is becoming expressed in relation to the fact that there's something that masculine, you're potentially looking at situations and scenarios from the past and hoping or aspiring that you may have been able to do something different. The best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. The next best time is right now. So for masculine energy going through this, I need to stress your ability to ascertain and recognize that there are things that you would have done differently today is a benchmark, because it shows the fact that you are on a journey of growth and healing. The fact that you don't look back on the past self and say, wow, I nailed those. That was aces. I did everything perfect. that would be showing a stagnancy point. Your own ability to assess what you would change and adjust for is showing the fact that you are on a healing journey. So not letting yourself lose sight of that is really important at this time, because that doesn't mean the benefit of recognizing something that you would do differently is the exact thing you need to make sure that you're not going to have to repeat something again. Masculine, feminine energy, this anxiety point, we see that there's a lot of feminine energy right now that's moving towards masculine with a state of trepidation and caution, because it is the feeling and the difference of being able to work with a masculine that actually wants to build forth with feminine from a place of equality and balance, versus potentially feminine feeling like they're recovering from spaces or places where masculine was moving more from a sense of what worked best for them and not desiring a true divine union. So even now, for a lot of the masculine energy, recognizing if you're seeking divine union with feminine and you're seeing that the feminine is more trepidatious, this is potentially feminine energy that you're recognizing is coming into a state of recovering from masculine energy that may have tried to take advantage of feminine as opposed to building forth with them. Masculine and feminine in divine union right now, this is some of that healing still coming through the waves of the connectivity. So this is that moment that you have to kind of recognize that, again, even for feminine energy that's in a place or space that feels like you are healing, it doesn't mean that your past is erased. It almost means that there's that opportunity or moment to be triggered again, even when things are becoming difficult, because it's a reminder of things from the past that weren't necessarily in balance or alignment. While for masculine energy right now, this moment, this path work, the reason this feels like such a challenge is because, again, you are moving towards the version of your best self, which often makes you have to confront that other side of oneself, either around or within you or around those that you experience around you. So again, a lot of this work right now, it's heavy. And even now, navigating that point of frustration into productivity, just got to be patient with it. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it with me. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, gracestrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please remember, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading and pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you would like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never reach out to you for a private reading. I'll never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. I'd like to thank you guys so much for being here with me today and sharing with me in these messages. And we will do this again tomorrow.